The high voltage battery, hey, this thing weighs 1,600 to 1,800 pounds. So if you're one of those guys that think you can take the bolts out and wrestle it down, well, you better be a big-time WWF wrestler, because if you're not, you're going to be an ant by the time you're done. The proper way to do this is to have a battery lifting table. These are definitely available. This battery is a lithium iron phosphate cell, which means it's one that works out fairly well. It charges well, charges quickly. It's pretty safe as far as a lithium type battery. And the range, of course, is available in 2 different batteries. So you want to keep in mind different kilowatts. Here's the battery pictured. You can see in the blue areas here. And there's something very unique about this battery in the Lightning. Because of packaging, remember, Ford made a truck that looks like a truck. Hey, why would you want to change an F-150? It's the best-selling truck for how many years now? So people like their F-150. Let's make it electric, but let's keep the body somewhat similar. And that's what they did in this particular case. You'll notice the thing about these batteries, the first 3 packs towards the front, those particular batteries are a little lower looking than the 3 in the back. That's because the back 3 are double stacked. When you look at the scan data, you'll see basically an upper and lower battery level as far as your battery pit information. So keep in mind, the batteries towards the rear are double stacked. They're stacked on top of each other. So you'll see a lower level battery information, and then also an upper level battery information as far as your scan data. So that's kind of interesting. Here's what the battery hookups look like. These are all conventional type quick disconnect arrangements. Remember, they're orange in color. And if they're orange in color, if we do pull any of these off, you know, if I'm going to do a major service like a motor in one of these, I'm going to go ahead and depower it, get rid of the high voltage like we showed you already, and then what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull these connectors off. Now, if I'm pulling these connectors off, though, I'm going to have my 1,000-volt gloves on, and I'm also going to have, of course, my face shield on, because they're orange. If there is any amperage at that particular connector when I pull it off, it's going to spark. So I'm going to err on the side of caution. Once I get that connector off, I'm going to take some orange tape, throw it over there to protect the connectors on both ends, on both the battery and the other end. If I have that battery disconnected and my high voltage has definitely been gone for a while, I can be pretty rest assured that I have a scenario where I have no high voltage in that system. And then at that point, I don't, of course, need high voltage protection equipment, as long as I know for a fact I have no high voltage anywhere. Okay. The battery pack housing is made from aluminum, and it's bolted to a steel frame, just so you know. So the steel frame offers extra support inside the normal frame rails of the truck, which means it's very, very strong. So this battery pack is probably one of the most protected things in this Ford F-150 Lightning out there. So made pretty well. The battery is liquid cooled. Each battery section has a coolant plate in it. So you want to keep in mind, when Ford tells you to change the coolant, you better change the coolant. Otherwise, the coolant could end up giving deposits inside to these coolant jackets. If they get plugged up, of course, the battery won't perform because it's getting too warm. If the battery gets too warm in these cases, the computer automatically goes ahead and regulates the current flow out of the battery, so your performance won't be as good, obviously. That's pretty simple. So there is coolant system in here. There is the ability to cool the battery pretty well, and you want to keep in mind, if you do ever service this coolant system, which you should, there is a bleed procedure for it using your good old scan tool. So the scan tool has a bleed procedure. Now, the bleed procedure takes an hour. I'll tell you right up front, it's an hour. A lot of people like walking away. You walk away, you're not going to do the procedure properly. What the procedure does is turn various pumps and valves on and opens up various passages and make sure those passages are totally full. At that point in time, the coolant level is going to go down. So while you're doing the bleed procedure, you're going to find out that you've got to add coolant. Well, if it would, for some reason, you know, someone just goes by and hits enter and goes to the next step with low coolant in the reservoir, that's going to be a problem, okay? Now, the nice thing about this is there's only one coolant reservoir for various coolant systems. So that makes our job a little bit easier, but it also means when you go ahead and go through the bleed procedure with your scan tool on those coolant systems, you need to ensure that the level is up where it should be. If it's not where it should be, it's obviously going to be a problem. And you're going to have to start your bleed procedure again. And did I mention that it takes an hour? So you better do it right once and fill it with the proper coolant at that particular time. No universal coolants in these systems. use the correct coolant that Ford recommends. Now, you don't have to buy it from a Ford dealer. You can buy it from your favorite parts store like a Federated or Pronto or Bumper to Bumper or one of those fine auto parts stores, but you want to make sure it meets the specification that Ford requires for this truck. And that's your job. Make sure it gets the right antifreeze, because you owe it to your customer to take good care of their Ford Lightning, because you want this thing to last a long time, okay, for them. Let's go ahead and roll forward a little bit here. Here is the container that holds the antifreeze. We mentioned there was only one coolant jug, and here's where it is. Remember, it's got a cap on it. That system has to remain pressurized, so you do need to check the pressure of the cap. Okay, a lot of these cap pressures and such are only 5 psi, so remember, don't test them to 20 or 30. That might induce leaks, as we say. So always follow the recommended specifications to ensure the cap is good. Now remember, this is the new longer life type coolant in most cases, and you want to keep in mind that air mixed with it is not a good thing. So you always want to make sure you get all the air out, no air pockets, and also make sure that you're using the correct coolant and it's always filled to the correct level. If you go through the bleed procedure properly, you'll have no problem handling this. And hey, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it's a great ticket. To do it properly using the scan tool and going through the bleed procedure, it's going to take you some time, and the owner of the vehicle has to go ahead and pay appropriately. So this is a good job for you. As long as you do it right, there's going to be no comebacks on it. Use the right antifreeze, and you're going to make really good money on it. And you're going to deliver your customer a truck that's going to last as long as it should, as long as Ford meant it to. And that's a win all the way around, if you ask me. So don't forget, anytime you have a battery situation, the customer is going to be watching the battery energy level on the dash. So if you have, like, for instance, a situation where the coolant system isn't functioning correctly, we're going to go ahead and limit maybe the charging to the battery, eliminate the amount of energy used out of the battery, whatever the case may be. The customer is going to notice it by looking at the battery energy level. Different batteries, of course, require different types of charging, and they have different characteristics. You want to keep in mind that all manufacturers right now have the exclusive rights to put the battery they want in that vehicle. If they found battery technology that costs a little less, that works a little better, etc., you know, you might get new battery technology. So keep in mind at all times, the battery technology is going to change regularly. Battery technology right now is changing in some cases very, very often. And you want to keep in mind that that truck may have a different style battery than the last truck you worked on that was basically the same year truck. So keep in mind, there's a lot of important issues as far as batteries go. These batteries are all lithium. We're not here to talk about the lithium batteries, but here's the next important thing. Coolant systems. The standard tow package, remember we talked about the standard tow package and the higher tow package, they call it max tow package. The cooling systems vary a little bit, and you know, we've got the max tow package. When we have the max tow package, because of the added coolant needs, we actually have 2 AC compressors. Now remember, these are electric AC compressors. So those electric compressors, basically they have more than one loop usually. We could have 2 coolant systems with a single expansion tank, and we have both of these air conditioning systems helping to go ahead and cool possibly, depending on the need for cooling. Generally, we can say one of the air conditioning systems cools the cab, the other one cools the battery and hardware on the heavy tow package. If you very simply have the regular tow package, you only have one AC system, one cooling system, you could say here in this case. That's big, but you're going to have a situation where it does both the cabin and, of course, battery and such as it can. So keep that in mind. The radiator itself is angled, so we have a situation where we've got coolant exchangers in here. There's a dual loop AC system. You want to keep in mind the top third services one loop, the bottom 2/3 basically are serviced otherwise. So this is the AC condenser here in this case. You want to keep in mind right here in the bottom of the bumper. In this particular case, you can see it right down here in the bottom of the bumper, we have air shutters. And those air shutters open and close to go ahead and control the amount of air that goes through these coolers. So if we need more airflow, we open it up. If we're trying to warm things up a little bit because it's -40 outside, we're of course going to go ahead and close that airflow so we can get things warmed up. So the computer controls not only the airflow here, but everything. Here's a picture kind of shows you what we call the active grill shutters, and there is a bidirectional command in your scan data. That bidirectional command, of course, is going to go ahead and open and close those air passages so we can remove heat from those particular heat exchangers. So keep in mind, that's something that's fairly critical for you here. Pretty simple, okay? Now, remember, we talked about it, the expansion tank, which is under the front right here in this area, it's going to go ahead and have a scenario where it services both the coolant systems, even if it's a max tow package. So we have one coolant tank that's going to go ahead and service both. Now, there are some valves that are involved. There's a mechanical balance valve. There's 5 hoses connected to the valve, and it's a total mechanical valve. There's no electronics on it. It balances the flow between the 2 coolant systems in this particular case. So this is a component that could go ahead and wear. Now, take a look at how many hoses we have in this picture. Quite a few. What do you think is going to happen down the road in about 15 years? Or sooner, depending on the amount of driving time and such. We may have to replace all the hoses. I'd love to be the guy doing that, because it's going to be a nice ticket, okay? If you do it right, use the right clamps, etc. Okay? There's also a coolant electronic valve. It's a 5-way valve. It separates the coolant system loops, so this valve is computer controlled. There's a bypass hose there, of course, though, that stabilizes the normal pressures between the systems, so it gets a little complicated as far as that goes. Primary AC compressor. We'll show you this compressor in a few. We'll get this frunk removed and we'll show you what the compressor looks like and such. Here's the secondary compressor. And these compressors are electric and they're rubber insulated and mounted, of course, so that they're very quiet in nature. The secondary AC compressor is mounted on the cross member with rubber bushings. It's kind of funny because if you take the compressor and give it a jab, it'll sit there and bounce around for a while. It's very much rubber isolated, so it can't produce any noise and such in the particular truck. So Ford has done a great job of keeping the noise level in these trucks way down. Now, we do also have a part called a chiller. Sometimes the coolant system can't remove enough heat. So how can we remove more heat? Well, we can use the air conditioning system. So we can go ahead and run the coolant through this chiller arrangement, which is under the frunk once again also. And when we run the coolant that's warm through the frunk, we use the air conditioning system to remove heat from that coolant. That helps us cool the coolant system. So the air conditioning system also works to help cool the battery and the electronics. So pretty good scenario. Ford's got a backup here, so they make sure that that battery can always perform at peak performance, the motors can perform at peak performance, etc. So it works out rather well as far as that goes. Don't forget, as far as the AC system goes, if you look at the good old PowerPoint here, you're going to see that this particular system uses 1234YF refrigerant. It also uses a special POE oil in this case, so ensure that you always follow the correct recommendations when you recharge the AC systems and such. The AC system otherwise is fairly a conventional system on this. Ford Motor Company for next year, they're going with a heat pump. So there will be a heat pump just like your house has to make heat and cool your house. And the reason for that is it's about 29% more efficient than a regular AC heat system that's electric. So very simply put, look forward to the heat pump. You can always tell a heat pump because you'll see a bunch of liquid, small, high side lines going in through the dash area, through the firewall. And that's because we need to go ahead and both remove heat and add heat. So you have additional lines.